Good evening and welcome to The Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. I am Rachel David White. This is a program that bridges the gap between the government and the people. It also explains government policies to the people and gets feedback from the people to the government. Today we'll take a look at many stories that are making the rounds here in Nigeria and somewhere else. Meanwhile, I'm being joined here by Xavier Robert. Welcome to the show, Xavier.
Hey, thanks, Rachel. A lot of topical trending issues in the politics today.
All right, so today we'll also be joined live in the studio, and of course I'll also have a virtual guest join us when we get to talk about what concerns our dear state Akwa Ibom. But before then, let's quickly head to Gabon and find out what's happening. But before then, let me ask a question. How did the Gabon coup come to you? How did you receive it? The news that, Gabon has suddenly been taken over by the military.
Well, Rachel, that's the same question I'm asking the Gabon citizens. I'm wondering how they received this news. But I'm seeing videos everywhere.
They're so excited in the video.
And
then they're rejoicing with the coupists, the military people who have taken over. And we almost saw the same thing happening in Niger Republic.
We saw them.
Yeah, so now what the question on our minds are, what is happening? Is it that the people are fed up with the government, or it's no longer people oriented, or is no longer favoring the people? It's not inclusive as they promised. Is it a family thing where they just feel, oh, this government favors my family? And talk about Gabon for how many years? And then it looks like the people, they're no longer comfortable with what is happening any longer, and the only solution is a coup. And then maybe they couldn't voice it out to say, oh, we need a military takeover. So once it happens, and they now become excited.
But I really feel that this is a clarion call to African leaders, and especially the Francophone countries, because that's where the heat of coups are really taking place currently. We really need to go back to the drawing board and try as much as possible to satisfy the yearnings of the people.
Of course.
Because if we don't do that, we'll see people celebrating military coups as if it were to be the way to go. So I really hope that we try as much as possible to get these things ironed out.
We'll also look at the 8-point agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course we'll look at, they will assess the 3 months plus of the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Omono, in office, which we touched last week. We're going to short break. When we come right back, we'll talk better. So do stay tuned and don't go anyway. We'll be right back.
free society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on Star Times DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Right, welcome back to the show, The Law for People and Governance. A quick one, let's quickly get to the details of today's report. Well, the Gabonese President Ali Bongo has been deposed by the military days after winning the presidential election. We discussed that, Xavier. According to the report, soldiers were said to have appeared on Gabonese national television in Gabon to announce that they had taken power. The coup has also announced the annulment of Saturday's election at the dissolution of the democratic institutions in the country. While speaking on Gabon 1 and Gabon 24, the spokesman of the coup said he was speaking on behalf of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions.
Among the soldiers were members of the Republican Guard as well as soldiers of the regular army and police officers. Bongo, who came to power after the death of his father in 2009, won a third term in an election which opposition argued was heavily disputed. The development comes amid the move to resolve the removal of a democratically elected president in Niger Republic, and both the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and African Union, AU, which have rejected the coup in Niger, are yet to react to the coup in Gabon as of the time of filing this report, but recently.
Of course. Meanwhile, a military junta in Gabon has, they have dissolved the cabinet, the Senate, the National Assembly, the Constitutional Court, the Economic, Social and Environmental Council, and the Gabonese Election Center. Well, in a televised address this morning, the coup leaders said they represented all security and defense forces in the Central African nation under the aegis of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of the Institution, while the CTRI, as it said, it had dissolved the cabinet, the Senate, the National Assembly, the Constitutional Court, the Economic, Social, and Environmental Council, and the Gabonese Election Center as well. And they announced the cancellation of the results of last Saturday's presidential election, which Bongo was declared the winner. Well, talking about that particular issue right now, you want to talk about it, it's something that will take us, back to what we said initially. But before then, let's just quickly get to the next story so we can just round up and bring our guests on set. Let's get to the second report we're looking at today. Well, before we head there, China today also called for all sides in Gabon to guarantee the safety of President Odimba. Yes, let's quickly get to the second report we're having for today. We're looking at the 8-point agenda of the president, which he announced. Of course, the federal government of Nigeria had unveiled 8-point agenda to boost the country's ailing economy, and President Tinubu explained that this has become paramount because of his administration inherited a bad economy. Wow. With an inflation rate of over 24% and unacceptably high unemployment rate. And according to the federal government, the 8-point agenda will prioritize 8 areas with actionable targets for the next 3 years.
These focus areas are food security, ending poverty, economic growth and job creation, access to capital, particularly consumer credit, inclusivity in all its dimensions, particularly as regards youths and women, improving security, improving the playing field on which people and particularly companies operate, the rule of law, and of course, fighting corruption.
Wow, fighting corruption. While President Tinubu restated that his government will not depend on borrowing, pledging that he will be transparent, honest, and accountable to the masses. Well, on jobs, the president promised to create about 50 million jobs through the Ministry of Trade and Investment. And while briefing State House correspondent at the end of the meeting, which was the inaugural FEC meeting presided over the president himself, at the council chamber in Abuja, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edun, said that the Tinubu administration made a very bad economy. We have already mentioned that 24%, of course, inflation in the country.
Asked to describe the kind of economy the government met on the ground, he said per capita has fallen steadily, inflation is at 24%, unemployment is high, and he was just trying to make sense of what's going on in the country. He also explained that the federal government is not in a position to borrow money at this time, adding that the emphasis is on how to create macroeconomy environment where both local and foreign investors will invest and increase production. Now, Tinubu gave the cabinet members a marching order to marshal the revival of the economy and make life more bearable for the citizens, which is always what we have on the show. The marching order was given at the council meeting where the roadmap for the economy presented by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy was conceded. Edun said the council agreed that the economy needs to improve quickly.
Well, reacting to this, Hakim Baba Ahmed, a Nigerian-born retired civil servant and politician, who is the spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum, has made a tweet on his official Twitter handle while reacting to the 8-point agenda of the president, of course, Shiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and urging him to focus on just one. And also, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has called on state governors to support President Bola Tinubu. He called on state governors to support the 8-point agenda of the president. Well, calling the president, according to Baba, he says you should just focus on one. Well, we'll still talk about that. Let's quickly come back home and talk about the last story before we bring in our guest. Coming back home, the Akwa Ibom State Governor, Pastor Omoina, has announced his administration's plan to put in place a palliative measure, one project per local government initiative
going
to
back to
create
one.
employment. Yes, well, it says reinvigorate the economy and increase cash flow within the rural communities. And these projects are going to award, are to be awarded to indigent contractors from the respective local government areas, who in turn are to recruit the locals to work and enhance their productivity as well as boost their purchasing powers. And he spoke while he was receiving the report of the palliatives committee set up by his government to work out modalities to cushion the effect of failed subsidy in the state.
Well, meanwhile, the Akwa Ibom state government confirmed receipt of 2 billion naira and 3,000 bags of rice. Palliative measures that were promised by the federal government. And there was pandemonium on Tuesday.
That was yesterday.
Capital, as aggrieved youths under the aegis of the Niger Delta Advocacy Movement, DAM, and Ibom Youth Council, IYC, embarked on a protest in the Akwa Ibom, demanding a 5% share from the 13% oil derivation. I think that's away from the talk about palliatives. Now, the angry youths drawn from some other oil-producing states of the Niger Delta marched towards the government house along Wellington Bassi, where we were, and security operatives were reportedly stopped them at the roundabout.
Well, an eyewitness said when I contacted, said trouble started when the police who were on ground opened tear gas to disperse the protesters from entering the government house. And some residents of the area, including the Eka Street, Asutan Street, and of course Udo Street, said when they heard gunshots and people running, seeking to take refuge in their houses and offices, they were actually afraid.
According to sources who spoke in confidence that they were forced to lock up their offices for fear of the unknown. Well,
wow. Okay, now we are away from this. I noticed that it was all over social media yesterday when the pandemonium took place, and it was actually something to be afraid of. I mean, having the guts to march to the government house to request for 5% out of 13% oil derivation fund, and that now takes me to the palliatives. I thought each state were to be given a 5 billion naira.
Well, it's a question that is, maybe it's going to be shared in tranches. Who knows? Maybe it's in tranches. So, and then I saw what the governor did there in terms of saying that local contractors would be recruited to carry out activities, and then
that's one for each local government. Okay, let's quickly turn back to our guests and invite them over now. We have one audio guest and of course one who'll be joining us live in the studio. We're running out of time. We're going to short break. When we come right back, very short break, we'll be talking to you and our guests will be here as well, so we can address some of these issues together. So do stay tuned. We're coming right back.
Allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, welcome back. It's still the program, The Love of People and Governance. And right about now, we are about to address those issues that we've already raised. And we have our guests already seated. And of course, we have one other one who is supposed to join us via audio call. Of course, during the show, he'll be able to connect with us. But let's welcome Paulinus Peter, who is already seated here with us. Welcome. It looks like today's your wedding day.
Thank you very much and good evening. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's quickly get to the point we're talking about before we come back home now. We're looking at Gabon already starting a coup. Is it up to a month since Niger Republic actually, former Niger Republic's president, Mohamed Bazoum, was ousted by a military junta back there in Niger Republic, and we're seeing another one happen to Ali Bongo.
Well, we said on this program some time ago that what has happened to Niger was a wake-up call to the African leaders.
Of course.
And that's because every government is elected to actually take care of the people. The welfare of the people becomes the topmost priority of any government. So any government that fails to do that is actually bound to lose the confidence of the people. And over time, African leaders have been seeming to be taking the people for granted for quite a long time. And that is what is playing out. So it calls for caution on the part of our leaders. It calls for caution. And as you rightly said, the citizenry are jubilating. And that's an indictment on the part of government. And that points to the fact that government has not been living to its billing. Government has not actually been taking care of the welfare of the people. Service delivery has been lacking. So the people are trying to say, look, we don't understand what you call democracy, because according to the people, democracy should actually meant to take care of the people. If you call it democracy, then the welfare of the people are being relegated to the background. The people are now saying, we don't care to the nomenclature you are using to address your government. We want leadership that will provide service delivery. We want leadership that will prioritize the welfare of the people. And that is what is happening. It goes to show that people will no longer be taken for granted. So that's a caution for African leaders. They should sit up and do the needful.
Okay, I think our president,
of course. There's been a lot of statements released so far, but then the recent one is from President Bola Tinubu, who has reacted to the latest coup in Gabon, where Ali Bongo has been ousted and placed under house arrest. President Tinubu is regarding it as a seeming autocratic contention, apparently spreading across different regions of the continent.